Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla and I have Melaya here with me today. We're so glad that you can join us. Our goal today is to talk about a few mental health related issues and hopefully start to end the stigma surrounding them. So today we're going to talk about, as you term it, the second act.
The second act, yes.
So you want to clue our audience in on what you mean when you talk about the second act.
All right. So for me, this is my second act. I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years until I was about... Numbers aren't that important. It's fine.
It doesn't matter. Until she was not a stay-at-home
Until I was not a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And I was no longer in my 20s or my 30s. But in the tail end of that, I went back to school. I settled on what I was going to be when I grew up, and I felt like I was growing up finally. And so now I am, getting my feet wet in this new career that I had to be very intentional about. I had to go through a specific type of training and licensure and all of those things. And I was going through that process as a grown woman. Like, I wasn't this early to mid-20s girl who needed approval, who needed to seek validation, and who needed to not ruffle any feathers. It was like, no, this is what I came for. I came to ask questions, learn things, get what I needed. I paid quite a bit for it. So, I approached it with a bravado.
And you just because you weren't that 20-something-year-old didn't mean that you weren't coming with valuable assets as well. Right? So, life had still provided you a plethora of valuable tools that you could bring to your new chosen profession of counseling. So, yeah.
Right, well, because for one thing, I was a mom, so I had organization. I had, the ability to step back and see the big picture and see the chaos. And I had the skills of listening first, not just coming in and giving out directives and making changes. I learned to come in and just listen and just observe some things beforehand. And really felt comfortable challenging things. I think that was the thing that, had I done this process 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been comfortable challenging things that needed to be challenged. In the academic space, peer-to-peer, peer-to educator, peer to administration, or not peer, student to administration, student to professor, peer to peer. There were spaces where I had to say, hey, I'm not getting what I paid for. Or, peer to peer, it's like, you said you came to learn something or to be something, and you're not doing that. You're bringing those old behaviors, those bad behaviors, and you're holding on to them with a death grip. What are you really here for?
Right.
And finding my voice and being okay with ruffling feathers for the good.
So I'm curious. So to become a counselor, it's a master's degree program. So had you done your bachelor's degree kind of more in a traditional sense, or did you do that also later in life too?
I did that later in life too. So when I graduated high school, I lived on campus, did a traditional college freshman experience. I was not mature enough. I was not responsible enough. And I was back home the next year. And life was also really happening in a way that it was like, well, I can come back home and try to do the community college thing, but that wasn't shaken up the way it needed to either. And then it was just like dead-end job after dead-end job. And, I'll try this over here. I'll explore that over there. And then got married, had kids, ended up just kind of being at home because we couldn't afford daycare. Like, my paychecks were always about $100 short of the month's daycare bill. So it
didn't
never
make
made sense,
right?
right?
To work in the deficit, right? Yeah,
right. And so we ultimately, did those years, and around maybe 34, it was like, this is my thing. Like, I find myself in these certain spaces all the time. I think this is my thing. And so I went back to school. I did an online bachelor's program. I did an online master's program. There was a little bit of hybrid to it, but for the most part, it was online, but very synchronous. My bachelor's was asynchronous, which was, I didn't love that.
Right.
I'm a people person.
There was no space for conversation.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
But my master's program was very synchronous, and both of those allowed me to still be a mom, still do what I needed to do in those spaces, still be a spouse, and all of those things, while doing a thing for me. And it would not have been the same had I done it at 17, 18.
Sure, for sure.
It would not have been the same outcome. So, yeah, now is time. Now I have the maturity, and I have the patience, and I have the goal.
And the time and space to do it as well.
Absolutely.
Kids are a little bit older. You're not chasing after little ones in diapers and whatnot. Yeah.
No.
So what do you think the biggest obstacle was for you?
Technology. For me specifically, it was technology, because I'm not old, but I'm a little older, and in the space where technology was advancing, I was at home with kids. Yeah. So just kind of like redefine, or just kind of refinding myself in a very technical world was a bit of a challenge, and then doing it without feeling guilty. If I did have to tell the kids I can't do this today, or yes, you guys want to go to the pool, but not today. There were moments, like my daughter, she's 10 now, and maybe around 8, she was like, "What degree are you getting?" I was like, "I'm getting a master's degree." I'm never getting one of those. I'm going to make sure I have time for my kids. And I was like, okay, I see you. But also, or the lesson is, do this first.
Right.
Get the degrees, get the career, do this part first.
If that works for you,
If that works for you, right. The important part is I'm doing it. And whether I did it then, and you get plenty of my time.
Right.
You get plenty of my time. So remember not to internalize her or their momentary needs.
Right.
Over their
right, yeah.
well-being, right? I think that was maybe the biggest obstacle as well.
I think putting yourself first, not in a selfish way.
Right.
We were talking about the airplane rule at one point earlier today, and this idea that you have to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And so
right.
In this case, you taking care of yourself meant going back to school and getting a career that you could really, sink your teeth into.
Right.
And also be a role model for your kids about,
right.
It's never too late to go back and get those things that you, want
right.
to pursue. So remember, you can change your thoughts, discover your potential, and transform your life by focusing on your overall well-being. So until next time, continue working on being the best you possible. Bye.